Good morning. Welcome. Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Pittsburgh. It is Sunday, April 27th, 2025, and it is a glorious spring day, and still, you are here, and I am grateful. Thank you for being here. My name is Mac Perkins-High. I use he and they pronouns, and it's my honor to serve as the intern minister of this congregation, at least for the next month, when I will disappear, but it will still have been my honor to serve you. Our Reverend Kate Walker is off today. For those of you with visual disabilities, I'm 30 years old, I am white, I have a short beard, long blonde hair worn in braids, and I'm currently wearing a stole which is blue, like the rivers, and very, very long and has continued tripping me up so far. You are welcome here. However you came to be in this sanctuary, you are welcome here. If you are watching now or in the future, in person or online, you are welcome here. We Unitarian Universalists are one people of many faiths, many theologies, many sexualities, many genders, many origins, and many destinations. We are growing, we are learning, we are loved as you are loved. If this is your first time with us, we would love to be in touch with you. Please hang around for coffee hour after service or check out our website and find the ways you can sign up for the Pastoral Care newsletter. We're also a very active community. I have more announcements than probably you would like today, but I'm going to keep them as brief as possible. Firstly, after the service, teachers, volunteers, parents, and children in the religious education program are invited to a special luncheon downstairs in the Undercroft. Please wait outside the Undercroft to enter, and Erica's Shadow Song will meet you there. For everyone else, because the Undercroft is occupied, we will be having coffee hour sideways in the Schweitzer room, which will also give us access to the beautiful outdoor garden. The Pittsburgh Marathon is 1 week from today. We will be having service, but if you plan on coming, think very carefully about how you're going to do so, because it will be almost impossible to drive here. Kate will be leading service, she'll do a wonderful job, and if you would rather watch online, or if you'd rather watch the marathon, both of those are also good expressions of community solidarity. I'll be running the marathon, so I won't be here, and if you want to cheer me on, I'd appreciate it. Thank you, that was kind. We also have 3 things happening right after service today. One is an intro to Unitarian Universalism that will be led by me and our membership team over in the Priestley room. So if you're new here or you're just curious about Unitarian Universalism, stop by, we'll have a nice conversation and some snacks. If you are curious about the capital campaign, if you are wondering, for instance, what is the capital campaign? How much money should I be donating? How do I think about these things? There are small group meetings to have exactly those conversations. You will not be asked for money in those small groups. It's just a time to think about what it is that we are doing and how we're doing it together. So if you'd like to sign up for a small group, meet with Al, who's over there, wiggling her arms. Al's wonderful. And there will also be a small group right after service today, led by Chaz downstairs in the Harper room. We have 2 light bulbs, the money light bulb and the participation light bulb. The participation light bulb is too low. That is the purple one. We want you to give not just so we can get money, but more importantly, as a way to buy into this community, to buy into its vision. And so down the road, you can look and say, I did that, that's me, that is us. Even if you only have a few dollars to give so that you can be part of this vision. Finally, also over in the Schweitzer room, Bob, where are you, Bob? Over there, will be leading a voter registration drive. It's really important to be registered to vote. Please go see Bob. And that's all the announcements. Thank you. I now invite you to take a deep breath, to arrive in body and in spirit, and to picture yourself connected with all those who are watching today or in the future. I invite my friend Zephyr up to light the chalice. Today, we light the chalice, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith, in the name of the relationships that we carry with those here and those before us, and the ways they perpetuate over time. Thank you. Our opening hymn is Here Together by David Glasgow. Please, all good? Please rise in body and spirit. The words are found in the insert in your order of service. Please be seated.
Good morning. Oops. Good morning. Can you hear me? Okay. My name's Carol Washburn. I am a light-skinned woman with graying white hair in her early 70s, and I have a floral top on today. Would you join me today in reading our collective grounding? It's in your bulletin. We name our collective recommitment to care for the earth, knowing the ground we live upon is sacred. We pledge to bring new life to the earth, new life to the air, new life to the waters, life to each other, and all life is sacred. I now invite Erica Shadowson to lead the story for all ages.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay, great. What a gorgeous day today, isn't it? Oh, I'm really loving this spring. I really, really am this year. So I have a story for you that was one of many stories that talk about how we got land in the world or how different parts of the world were created. This particular one comes from Hawaii. Maui, this was back in the days, now this was back in the days when we had gods and demigods that were populating the world. And they were special, extraordinary people with extraordinary powers. They weren't necessarily completely immortal, but they were unusual. And Maui and his brothers were among these special beings. Now, he was the youngest and the smallest. Sound familiar to any youngest siblings out here? And so his older brothers they loved to fish, and they would go fishing, and he would go with them. But he was not a good fisher. He wasn't really good at it. So what he would do is instead he'd distract them and then steal their own fish and claim that they were his. So as you can imagine, after a little while, his brothers didn't take him fishing anymore. And he felt really, really left out. He felt bad. And his mother felt sorry for him. And she said, "There is a magical hook that is attached to the heavens. If you use this hook, it will pull land up from the sea." And he thought, what a great way to catch fish. Pull the land up and the fish will be flopping around and nobody's gonna get more fish than me. So he begged and begged and begged his brothers, please, 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 please take me fishing again. And they finally took him fishing again. And he used the hook and they paddled away. And as they were paddling away, they heard the roar of the sea opening, and land began to come up just as his mother said. But then they started to distract him because they were so amazed, and so he never pulled up the land completely. Instead, there were just these mountaintops, and that's how Hawaii came to be. But Hawaii has a volcano, and it didn't have its volcano yet. There was another set of siblings, Pele, and her brother, who was a shark god. He was the king of sharks, and he had a gourd that held in it the waters of life. They were from Tahiti. They decided to journey one day, and her shark brother led Pele, and then off in the distance, she saw Hawaii, and she saw a peak that was covered by clouds, just hidden, like just this private, beautiful, solitary place, and she decided that's where she was going to live. So Pele landed there. She took her magical stick. She found this crater in the earth, and she stuck the stick into the earth, and boom, fire began to come out. And she made her home in that crater. Her shark brother lived instead on a sacred cliff, not too far away. And to this day, out of respect for him, she makes it so that the clouds of steam never go to his cliff and make him uncomfortable. So that is the story of how the islands of Hawaii came to be. As we sing our children and youth out, I welcome Arthur Notaro up to give his testimonial.
I'll just kind of...
Good morning. My name is Arthur Notaro, and I've been a member for just over a decade of First Unitarian. I am a white male, 5'10" tall, dark-rimmed glasses and dark brown hair person. After college, while living about 2 blocks away, I tested out a few different walkable religious communities. I settled on First Unitarian as it felt most similar to my upbringing in the United Church of Christ. I was in search of a warm, like-minded community outside of work, and was then pleasantly surprised to discover my boss was already a member. I grew up attending the Spring Glen United Church of Christ of Hamden, Connecticut, where my grandparents had helped build the community and building. Their families both go back to the original congregational churches of the Massachusetts Bay Colony. The other half of my family are relaxed practice Catholics with a hint of Judaic past as well. Okay. I'm very fulfilled by serving the board as recording secretary and improving my understanding of the depth of thought directed to the ethical business and long-term operations of our evolving modern church practice. I encourage serving the church through volunteering, but am really here to spur on the capital campaign contributions. Though we can continue repairing our building without a long-term plan or strategy, as an architect with about 15 years of experience, I'm encouraged to see attention directed toward keeping our building not just functional, but fully oriented toward desired aspirational uses that support our values. We know the built world requires continued investment and improvement, yet as an architect, one of the guiding tenets for my work is to not propose change to the built environment for change's sake. Not only is this very expensive, but it doesn't achieve goals in a straightforward way. There must be great intentionality behind the proposal to change a religious structure to preserve the invaluable architectural character of the building, but also allowing flexibility in use. The building and its 2 sections are both at this point historically relevant, as is the grounds to some extent. My parents always taught me 3 different ways to save money. Basically a short-term, medium-term, and long-term pot of money was always to be taken care of. Future-oriented capital improvements can be filtered in the same way. First, you come across energy efficiency improvements, which are the no-brainer decision, as they typically pay back part or at least some of themselves. Hopefully all, eventually. Completing LED lighting upgrades, window thermal performance upgrades, HVAC system upgrades and replacements are evaluated for their ability to pay back with long-term ease of maintenance. So are, in a way, restroom renovations in order to keep maintenance reasonable. Inclusivity improvements such as front ADA access ramp projects, screens in the sanctuary, allow us to attract a diverse congregational audience. So also opening up the Schweitzer Room allows events to take place better within our garden while enhancing the usability of our outdoor space to host future events. And very long-term, our forward-thinking board intends to earmark a portion of the funds raised to create a permanent fund for building improvements, which will ensure that the campaign will be remembered and we will have lasting impact. I plan to invest in this church's future with a pledge to the capital campaign along these lines. I encourage all of you to consider what helping the church and to secure its future means to you and to pledge generously to help make it a reality.
Every month, we share our generosity with a designated organization. This month is the African American Music Institute. Our religious community is made up of volunteers and staff creating and hosting a variety of programming. We rely on your financial support. In addition to the collection plate, you can donate by texting GIVE to 412-435-1050 and following the directions. Please check the end of your order of service for more directions. The offering will now be gratefully received to support your work, wonder, and witness of this religious community.
Thank you. We live in a world chock full of joys and sorrows. It is so much as to be overwhelming or sometimes inducing apathy as a way to avoid the overwhelm. And yet, it is crucial to feel these things, to feel them ourselves, and to feel them in community. And so I invite you to do so now in a few moments of meditation, silence, or personal prayer. The leaves have entered into the world, the flowers continue entering, the day is warm and the wheel of the seasons turns. We live in a world of cycles, cycles of leaves growing and falling, cycles of injustice rising and also falling. But unlike the seasons, the cycles of injustice need our intervention to fall, to change, to go away for now. We carry in our hearts those who are wounded by this time, ourselves among them. We carry our joy for the babies in our lives that are here and that are coming. And we hold each other together, for it is in community that we must go forward.
The reading today will be pieces of Pangaea. The way the pieces of Pangaea parted once and scattered, each land dispersed upon its plate, is how, Plato reasoned, the whole human suffered Zeus's splitting. So that still today, we're still drifting down along the shifting fractures of our faults, inching India's dagger deeper into the fragile Himalayan heart, or in search, like Africa, of South America's Jurassic event.
Thank you, Carol. That poem is by Ben Downing. Erica offered you one story about land. I'm going to offer you a different one. Once upon a time, there were two continents. They took a liking to each other, as continents sometimes do, and so inch by inch, year by year, they moved towards each other. Slowly, they shrank the ocean between them. And after much time and much effort, the ocean closed up for good, and the two continents finally got to meet each other's shores. Because this is a true story, and because I don't think those continents would mind, I can share with you their names. The bigger continent was named Gondwana, the smaller named Laurussia, and once they got together, the name of their marriage was Pangaea. Pan, meaning all, Gaia, meaning earth. A word that together means all of earth, because in that moment, all of earth, more or less, had met together in one place. But it wasn't enough just for them to meet. And so Gondwana and Laurussia kept moving towards each other. With nowhere to go, their lands began to buckle upwards, forming mountains, immense mountains, the central Pangean range, with peaks at least as tall as today's Alps and Rockies, and possibly reaching to the same heights as the Himalayas. I'd like to tell you they all lived happily ever after. But not everything lasts, and Pangaea too did not last. The supercontinent broke up. Gondwana packed its bags and moved to the south. Laurussia, newly single, renamed itself to Laurasia and headed to the north. Over the eons, they too broke apart. Gondwana became Africa, India, Antarctica, Australia, and South America. Laurasia became North America, Europe, Asia. The great union of Pangaea is now in our distant, distant past. But those great mountains that were born when Pangaea formed, the central Pangean range, what do you think has happened to them over the last 300 million years? Anyone have any ideas? No ideas from this audience of scholars. They got smaller. Yeah, they eroded. But does anyone know where they are? The Appalachians. That's right. When mountains form, it's called an orogeny. The event that formed Pangaea is called the Appalachian or Alleghenian orogeny. The central Pangean mountains are here. Pittsburgh sits, you sit in what was once the highest mountain range on Earth. I'm sharing this story for a few reasons, and one of them is to offer a sense of how very, very old the Appalachian Mountains are. They formed when the part of Gondwana that is now Africa collided with the part of Laurussia that is now North America. Africa is all the way over there. At the peak, the central Pangean range was maybe as tall as the Himalayas, and now look at them. Pittsburgh's hilly. It's not quite Himalayan. Pangaea formed, the Appalachian Mountains formed before there were words, before there were humans, before there were mammals, before there were flowers. And before then, there was a river on this land. As Laurussia's land rose up into these ancient mountains, the river eroded the land faster than it arose. The mountains rose up, and the river stayed in place. There's actually a few rivers like this, but the one I'm thinking of is the New River in West Virginia, about 200 miles south of here. Most rivers flow down from the mountains, but the New River flows across the width of the Appalachian Range because it was here first. These mountains began in an unfathomably alien world to our own, and at that point, the New River was already old. In the world of geological metaphors, which is where this story is going, when it comes to thinking about people and their relationships, I imagine there's a tendency to think of people as the land, sturdy, and our relationships like the rivers, ever flowing, ever changing. And this morning, I want to say that that is exactly correct. People are the ground. They flow from one place to another, change precipitously, grow and lose their mountain ranges, while the rivers of our relationships stay immovably in the same place. We are shaped around our relationships, even more than they are shaped by us. But let's return to rivers and our relationships in a few minutes. First, I want to draw your attention to something, not that happened hundreds of millions of years ago, but that will be happening a couple weeks in the future. In 2 weeks, on May 11th, our coming-of-age youth will stand where I am standing now and share with you the work they've been doing. If you can be there, I recommend doing so. It's one of the very special parts of Unitarian Universalism. Coming of age is a Unitarian Universalist tradition where we ask our youth to reflect on the big questions, to articulate how they think about those questions now, and then to share their current understandings with their community, with you. That is the work of theology. And we ask our youth to do theological work, knowing both that they are capable of it and that their theologies will continue to transform over time. That is true of our youth. It is also true of us. We are capable of theological work, and our theologies will continue to transform over time. And I imagine, in this global moment, that many of us have been doing theology, whether we've thought of it that way or not. What I mean by theology is our system for making meaning from the world and our guiding principles for how to live and how to act in that world. Those are things that we need right now. And our theologies are probably also being challenged. How are you supposed to make meaning from cruelty, nonsense, and fascism? How are you supposed to act when everything demands your attention and you are also seconds from collapse? Has anyone here been thinking about those things? Yeah, that wasn't a rhetorical question. I can see you, for those of you who can't see each other. Most of you said yes. How do we make meaning? And what are we supposed to do? As UUs, we're actively called to engage with our theologies, to transform with them in response to new events, to re-articulate them as we change and understand things in new ways. But we are also a community. In 2 weeks, our coming-of-age class will share their theologies with you. But when did you last share your theology with this community? Not just sharing the questions or the things that are driving you to distraction, but also how you're working to make sense of them. Maybe it was yesterday. Maybe it's been quite some time. Either way, I invite you to do so again and to do so more. Whether we like to admit it or not, we are a religious community, and we need each other. Not just as a community of friends or a community of activists, but as a religious community, especially now. So in that vein of when did you last share your theology, I want to offer you today an articulation of my own theology so you can see what that work might look like. Yours does not have to look like this, but it could. I believe that we are interconnected, that we are made more of each other than of ourselves. And I believe that we have a responsibility to that interconnection. Returning to our geology lesson, people are the ever-flowing continents, and our relationships are the rivers that the continents move around. Remember, when the Appalachians were not here yet, the New River was already there. When the Appalachians were as tall as the Himalayas, the New River was still there. And now that the Appalachians have become as weathered and beautiful and small as they are today, the New River is still here. That is what I mean by interconnection. Our relationships are not flimsy things. Despite their appearances of motion, they are as sturdy as anything can be. This is a fact that is likely familiar to those of us who have alcoholism in our families. Alcoholism and its associated dynamics tends to recreate itself over and over across the generations. Children of alcoholics often become alcoholics themselves or marry people with alcoholism. The relationship, the river, outlasts the people that make it up. It is sturdy, and the people change to match it. But the persistence of relationships isn't restricted to cycles of pain. Last year, I was sitting down with my dad talking about the relationship between his mom and his uncles, and we came to the realization that many of the specific, wonderful dynamics that they had been recreated among me and my siblings. Relationships last. They have the tendency to remain, to recreate themselves, whether we are aware of them doing so or not. We are interconnected, and our responsibility to that interconnection is not just because we matter. It is that how we interact with our families, our friends, our neighbors, our strangers, our enemies, is something that will continue to exist long after we ourselves are gone. And if I'm making something that's going to last, an heirloom for generations yet unknown, that's something I want to do with great care. People are like rocks, relationships like rivers. People change, the rivers stay in the same place. But do they? Because another thing about rivers is that they're actually fairly easy to move. In Chicago, the river used to carry the city's sewage directly into Lake Michigan, and so engineers figured out a way to make the river flow the opposite direction, instead carrying the city's sewage away from it. The river bed is old, but it was the work of a couple years to make the river do the opposite of what it used to. And when I was a kid, my brother and I would dam up the stream behind our house with leaves and twigs. And not all rivers are as old as the New River. Most rivers, like the Allegheny and the Mon, flow down from the mountains because the mountains are older than them. And the Mississippi wants to move so badly that people have put in immense effort into keeping it in place so that New Orleans doesn't dry up as it would if the mouth of the river moved 200 miles away the way that it wants to. And so rivers are both immovable and easily moved. And in this, I feel like we are offered a theory of change, of what to do. Our world is the way that it is because of the relationships that predate us. We have inherited white supremacy, coloniality, nationalism, heteropatriarchy, and many other sorts of self-sustaining violences that have resisted continental movement and the rise and fall of mountains. They are still here because rivers stay put. They shape the people around them so that they can stay put. And you can move a river. The Mississippi wants to move because the silt it carries has dammed its flow. Given enough time, I imagine that that is what will happen with our rivers of injustice. The silt of human harm they carry will build up and force them, eventually, to change. But there is no reason to wait for eventually, and there are easier ways to shift a river. A small river, a stream, a creek, can be shifted by hand. That, in our world of metaphor, could be a single action, or how you interact with one person, or in one space. Shift that thing, and the small stream flows a different way, carrying its water to a different river. The Potomac and the Youghiogheny rise just a few miles from each other. That difference is tiny, and it's also enough that the Yacht flows here, and then down to the Ohio, to the Mississippi, to the Gulf of Mexico, when the Potomac flows the other way and out to the Chesapeake. Changing small streams just a little changes the destination a huge amount. While we need engineers to think of how to shift the larger rivers, in the meanwhile, we can shift our little streams, because we can shift them, because the impacts grow, and because, once shifted, they will stay in the same place. Our relationships of love will perpetuate. I believe we are interconnected. I believe that we are made more of each other than ourselves, and I believe we have a responsibility to that interconnection. That's not all I believe, but it is something that helps me both understand how we got here and what I can do about it. The ways I'm in relationship deeply matter, and I will attend to them, not only because it's life-giving to me, but also because it is what I can do in making permanent change for the better in our world. Your theology doesn't have to look like that. Mine is constructed of stories and science and nature because that's who I am, and because that's the part of myself that can be easily communicated from a pulpit. Theology doesn't have to be done in words. It can be sung, it can be danced, it can be gardened, it can be drawn. But however it is done, however it can be expressed, I invite you to share your theologies in community as you are able in this time. That can feel deeply tender, deeply vulnerable, but our theologies are also our steel, our diamond cores, our rivers that allow us to move against injustice and to act kindly in this world. So may you find and express your theology however you may. Amen, and blessed be.
Please rise as you are willing and able, and open your teal hymn book to number 1064, Blue Boat Home, but also have in your hand this order of service, because we are going to sing verse 3 in using plural language that says we and us, rather than I and me. 1064, Blue Boat Home.
thanks to the waves upholding us. Hail the great winds urging us on. Breathe the infinite sea before us. Sing the sky the sailor's song. We were born upon the fathoms. Never harbor a port have we known. The wide universe is the ocean we travel, and the earth is our global home.
Thank you. I now invite you to join your voices with mine for the chalice extinguishing. The words can be found in your orders of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. As we go forth from this space, I invite you to think about your answers to the questions we face and to share them with each other, and to, above all, act in love, knowing that your love will carry forward long, long after you are gone. Thank you.
You may remain seated, and please turn to your order of service, and we will sing here together for Going Forth, which is at the bottom of that insert.
We have spent this time together, and these holy moments give us strength to go down the winding road until we meet again. We have spent time together, and these holy moments give us strength to go down the winding road until we meet again. And my prayer for you is a peace that's true until